If the Maine Forestry Service tells you that animals just go crazy from hunger in the winter, just nod and lock your doors. The local cops are still feeding the press stories about starving, rabid bears. They know people will swallow any garbage as long as they don't have to look toward the black pines past the mountain. But animals don't know how to mimic the voices of the people you've buried. And wolves don't have a human, insanely wide smile, which now stands before my eyes every single second. I made a stupid mistake. I went back to Blackwood. And now, it's never gonna end. I was raised by my grandpa, Thomas, and Grandma Martha. My mother had me at 17, left a bundle on the porch of their Aroostook County farmhouse, and vanished. I never looked for her. The old folks pulled me through, gave me a normal childhood. In my 20s, I moved to Boston, landed a good job, bought a house, married Chloe. Right now, she's 7 months pregnant with a little girl. Everything was entirely too perfect. Until that night in January, when my grandpa called me at 3 a.m.
I picked up the phone. On the other end of the line, all I could hear was my grandpa's heavy, wheezing breath. For a split second, I thought I heard someone very quietly, faintly giggling in the background, but my grandpa spoke and I chalked it up to static.
Martha is gone, Elias. Come home. It's going to be a closed casket. Don't linger.
And the line went dead. Because of a blizzard, the highway was closed for 3 days. 4 hours behind the wheel on an iced-over interstate. The GPS died right as I crossed the county line, fading into a solid gray screen. When I was about 2 miles from the farm, the headlights caught a figure standing dead center in the road. I slammed on the brakes. The SUV spun out on the black ice.
It was standing 15 feet from my hood. Too tall to be a human, too unnaturally skinny to be an animal. Its arms, or whatever it had instead of arms, hung past its knees, almost dragging in the dirty snow. It was facing away from me. But then its shoulders stayed perfectly still and its head began to turn. Slowly, with a dry, cracking sound like bones snapping inside. The figure turned its face to the headlights. There was no face, just a solid mass of shifting black fur, but something caught the light inside that fur. 2 white eyes with no pupils. And right then, from my car speakers, cutting straight through the static, came a quiet, gurgling chuckle. I blinked. The headlights flared back to full brightness. There was no one on the road. No footprints, no shadow. Just empty asphalt. I drove to the farm in 10 minutes. My grandpa was sitting in the kitchen, still in his winter coat. An old shotgun was resting on the table. He didn't even look up when I walked in. He just poured bourbon into a glass.
Cops said cougar or a rogue bear. Bullshit. They all know. Bears don't undress people, Elias, and they don't fold their clothes into a neat little pile on the porch. Every single piece, down to the socks. Not a single drop of blood on Martha's clothes. Not a single tear. And what was left of her, the hunters had to collect from the bushes a mile out. She was gutted, boy. Clean, like a slaughterhouse.
I didn't sleep that night. It felt like the walls of the house had gotten thinner. Toward dawn, I went down to the kitchen. My grandpa was standing silently at the stove, frying meat. But when that sickly sweet, heavy smell hit my nostrils, my stomach violently turned. wasn't the smell of pork or beef. My brain instantly fed me a memory that made my blood run cold. It smelled like the scene of a bad car wreck when human flesh burns. I sprinted out to the backyard, gasping for the freezing air. Right under my bedroom window, in the deep, untouched snow, were two narrow, deep black holes, like someone had stood there all night on long, thin stilts, completely motionless.
There were only me, my grandpa, and a couple of neighbors at the funeral. Everyone was side-eyeing me, but nobody said a word. As I was leaving, Mrs. Clara intercepted me. She lived on the edge of the woods. The old woman grabbed my sleeve so hard the fabric tore. Her eyes were darting everywhere.
Why did you come back? Leave. Blackwood is rotting, Elias. Old Tony the Ranger walked into the thicket himself last month. You know why? He heard his stepson's voice coming from the tree line. The one who died 3 years ago. That thing, it steals voices. It calls us at night from the trees. If you hear Martha, cover your ears. It's not her. It's just picking the locks to your head.
That evening, I told my grandpa about the holes under the window and what Clara had said. I expected him to call her crazy, but he just gripped his glass tighter.
We lied to you about Sarah. Your mother didn't leave for Boston. 30 years ago, she walked to the neighbors for diapers. That evening, someone knocked on this door and called my name in her voice, like Sarah was standing right outside. I walked up to the door, looked through the keyhole. She was standing there, but her head was resting on her shoulder, broken at the neck, and she was smiling, a massive frozen smile, ear to ear. And she kept speaking in her voice, asking me to open up, but her lips weren't moving. I didn't open the door. I locked myself in the basement. They found her in the river a week later. That thing remembers our blood, Elias. It came back for you. Leave at dawn.
The car wouldn't start in the morning. By the time I swapped the fuses and messed with the wiring, the sun was gone. Panic was driving me out of that house. I left at dusk. All around me, just a wall of black forest and an empty highway. And exactly halfway through, right where no radio station reaches, the car just died. The headlights cut out, the SUV coasted until it came to a complete stop. A silence so heavy washed over me that my ears popped. I sat completely frozen for 10 minutes. I was too terrified to even turn my head. And then, in the dark, I felt it against the back of my neck. Right behind my seat, someone very quietly, very slowly, inhaled. Something slammed onto the roof from above so hard the windshield webbed with cracks. From the darkness, that same gurgling chuckle echoed. In that exact moment, an old pickup pulled onto the stretch and braked next to me. The driver, a local kid, rolled his window down just an inch. The smell of tobacco wafted from the cab. He yelled out nervously, "Hey man, everything all right?" I didn't even have time to open my mouth. A massive black mass dropped onto his pickup from above. The kid's side window exploded into dust. The creature didn't roar. In absolute silence, with jagged, unnaturally fast, jerking movements, it dragged the driver out through the narrow gap of the window, literally folding him in half. Panicking, I smashed the hazard lights. The flashing yellow light caught it. A massive, fur-covered body with skinny, broken limbs. It turned its face toward me. It wore a frozen, giant human smile filled with rows of small, sharp teeth. That thing leaned toward my window and said, in that dead kid's exact voice and intonation, man? Everything all right?" Then he giggled, threw the remains over his shoulder, and vanished into the woods. I passed out.
I woke up at dawn. The car started on the first try. I drove to Boston without stopping once. When I got home, I lied to Chloe and told her I hit a deer. That's how I explained the dents and dried blood on the hood. I didn't leave the bedroom for 3 days. On the 4th day, the local news reported an empty pickup found on the highway. The driver was missing, and they found his fiancée a mile from the car, without her head. I immediately dialed my grandpa, but he didn't answer. The voice on the other end was Gary, his neighbor.
Elias, Thomas is dead. Found him a couple hours ago in the kitchen. The front oak door was ripped out, frame and all. The sheriff's writing it up as a bear, but we aren't idiots here. Come down. The lawyer's waiting. We need to close the book on the house.
I went back to Blackwood for just one night to sign the papers. I boarded up every window, locked every door, and took a triple dose of sleeping pills. At 3 a.m., the crunch of snow on the porch woke me up. Heavy footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. And then, from the hallway, came Grandpa Thomas's voice.
Elias, let me in. I'm so cold. Open the door, boy.
The voice sounded like it was coming from an empty oil drum. And between the words, there was a strange crunching noise, like someone loudly cracking their knuckles. And then it started giggling. The living room window shattered into splinters. I bolted for the back door. Out on the porch, a massive, clawed hand swiped across my arm, tearing flesh down to the bone. I threw myself into the car and slammed the gas to the floor. In the rearview mirror, in the darkness of the empty house, I just caught a glimpse of that motionless, wide, glowing white smile.
It's been a month. The scar on my arm closed up, turning into an ugly black strip of skin that constantly itches. I thought Boston was far enough away. I thought that thing was tied to the woods of Maine. Last night at 3 a.m., a strange noise from the baby monitor woke me up. A quiet, familiar whisper was coming from the speaker. It was my own whisper. The voice on the monitor was repeating the exact words I had said to Chloe earlier that evening. Panicking, I ran to the nursery, but the room was empty, and my daughter was sleeping peacefully in her crib. I went back to the bedroom, breathing heavy. I got into bed and whispered to my wife. The signal's acting up. I thought I heard my own voice coming from the monitor.
The monitor is picking up interference.
My voice, coming from her mouth, slowly morphed into the wet, gurgling laugh of Grandpa Thomas. Chloe slowly began to turn toward me in the dark. With a loud, dry snap, her neck rotated entirely around its axis, breaking at an unnatural, sharp angle. And on her face, in the pitch black of our bedroom, I saw that smile, stretching ear to ear.